What's up, everybody? Welcome to the ATL Sports HQ live show, the show for the fans, by the fans, episode 19. My name is Bob Lancaster. You can find me all over social media at Bo and Bob. Sports HQ live show, the show for the fans. You didn't move quick enough, Phil. It's your turn to introduce yourself, Phil.
My computer, but it's frozen, so Phil, let me get myself situated.
I'm Derek Clemens. You can follow me on Twitter at Derek Clemens.
You can follow the site at atlsportshq.com and ATL Sports HQ on YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, and also the show can be found on all major podcast sites, including iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, Google Hangouts. Wherever there's a podcast, we're most likely there. So make sure you go give us a 5-star rating. We would greatly appreciate that if you did that. And if you're interested in writing for the site, we still are actively recruiting. So just shoot over a message to either myself or Phil on Twitter, and we will get you set up. We've added quite a few writers here in the last week or so, and some quality work being done by these new guys lately. So we'd like to keep that rolling. But let's get right into the action. Let's talk about the Trey TL, as Phil likes to call it. What a week. I mean, what a week for Trae Young. Eastern Conference Rookie of the Month again. Epic 4-overtime game with 49 points, 16 assists, 8 boards. And hey, he topped it off with his first career ejection, too. So it's just been an awesome week. But let's start with the 4-overtime instant classic with the Bulls. Was this Trey's breakout to the entire country? I mean, he was trending number one on the Twitter. He was trending number one on Twitter worldwide. Phil, was this his breakout to the entire country?
Yeah, if people weren't already realizing what was going on, because, he was playing good before the All-Star break. He had a very good rookie sophomore game, and then he came out with back-to-back 36-point games after the All-Star break, and then he went absolutely nuclear. People aren't realizing he had 2 points at the end of the first quarter. He had 10 points at halftime, 16 points at the end of the third quarter, and then scored 18 in the fourth quarter, 10 in the last 3 minutes of the fourth quarter, and 11 in the first overtime. And then he just ran out of gas like anybody would at that point. You can see it in his legs. Exactly. You can still see it in the games after that. You can still see it. Right now, he's really it's catching up to him because, at this point, he's played 60 games. College season only goes about 31. So this is the most basketball he's ever played by far. I think people are forgetting, too, how durable he's been this season. He's played and started in every single game for the Hawks this season. But it was just a beautiful thing to see. I've been going to Hawks games since 2005, and I have to say that was the second best Hawks game I've ever been. The first best would be the Al Horford putback game. So it was just an amazing thing to see. The crowd was amazing. It felt like the old days. And as I said in my article last week, the Trae Young article, pretty much game by game, you can just feel the energy increasing at State Farm Arena. It's going to be really exciting next year. I can't wait.
You're jumping ahead, man. You're already asking questions I'm going to ask you here and later. But what do you think, Derek? Was this Trey's breakout to the entire country?
Yeah, it's definitely starting to show around. Like you said, on Twitter, all the national media sites were catching on to that, and you're starting to see him being recognized after this stretch. But they should have been on notice way before, and I think it's only going to continue. His brand is going to continue to grow and be bigger and bigger.
Yeah, the great thing about it for me was I started watching on Twitter as the points started going up, and he was number 8, and then he moved up to number 6, number 5, and then when he drained the 3-pointer to take the game, what we thought was going to be a game winner, but a dumb foul caused it to go into overtime. But when he drained that 3-pointer, he shot up to number 1 trending United States and then by the end of overtime, he was number one trending worldwide. So I definitely think that this was his breakout to the entire country. It definitely was the most talked about that he's been on ESPN. It was, for once, it was him leading the story instead of Luka. So it was good. I mean, it on the downside, it was horrible that we ended up losing that game. I kind of took a little bit of the polish off it, I guess. But it was a lot of fun to watch, But one thing that won't be talked about though, but how great was Vince Carter gutting out that 45 minutes with John Collins out, Derek?
I mean, it's great to see. I mean, he's consistent production from him. I mean, you wouldn't think that he would be out there that much. I mean, especially with a bunch of young guys that we have on the team. But, I mean, he continued to play well, making good plays, hustle plays at the end of the game. Can't remember exactly when it was, but he made a nice play to keep the possession in Hawks. But, I mean, his performance was great. I mean, just like it has been throughout the entire season. And he's done way more than what we could ask for.
Yeah, what'd you think, Phil?
Yeah, at this point, Vince Carter has been an elite three-point shooter this year. It's amazing. This man is 42 years old, and he's still getting it done. He falls asleep on defense sometimes, but hey, you're 42 years old and you knocking down shots, I'll give you a pass. And you're also providing immeasurable guidance and to the rookies and young players. So I'm glad to have him. I hope he sticks around for another year.
I was just going to ask you, do you think that possibly it could be time for the Hawks to be sitting down and talking to him about an extension for another year? I mean, he's just been so invaluable to this team, like you said, leadership-wise. He's putting up more minutes than I think we could have ever imagined that he would be putting up. I kind of would like to see him come back next year and help this team grow even more.
For sure, because as we get better, it's gonna be as we get better, we're gonna need players that can get it done on both ends, obviously. And he's only getting older, so if he can come support the locker room in a role that I thought he would have this year, I didn't think he would even be seeing the court. We're in March. I really didn't think he'd be seeing the court anymore, honestly.
Yeah, Derek, was this the best Hawks game you've ever watched?
I don't know about best, but if I enjoyed this game probably the most that I've enjoyed a Hawks game maybe since the 60 win season. I mean, the last few years, even though sometimes they could be fun to watch, but I mean, it was pretty much boring basketball even when we were in the playoffs our last, 2 years ago. But
Dwight Howard and Dennis Schroeder?
Yeah, that season was probably even more boring than last year. But, I mean, this season has been fun to watch. And, I mean, that game especially, I mean, it had me on the edge of my seat, even though it should have been over in regulation. But it was a fun game to watch in general.
Yeah, I didn't get to see the putback game. I heard that mentioned a lot by a lot of people as far as best game. I actually didn't see that game. So this, to me, is the best game I have ever watched. I mean, I was invested. The wife went to bed, and I stuck it out. I mean, it was just enthralling. I mean, again, to see Trey hitting the shots. But like you said, you could start to see the legs going out on Trey and the legs going out on Vince. I mean, Vince by that last quarter was just so short on all his shots, but you couldn't blame him. I mean, I think if they would have had, John Collins, that we wouldn't have, we wouldn't even be talking about overtime, because I thought that as good a game as Trey had, I just think we wouldn't have gotten into 4 overtime. We may not have seen the as good of numbers as Trey had. So, but man, I enjoyed it. So, like I said, for me, best game I've ever watched for sure. But the next Bulls game saw Trey's first ejection for literally doing nothing. I mean, Chris Dunn slaps him aside the head, and they assess a double technical when Trey walked away. And then Trey drains a 3 and stares down Dunn for a second tech and ejection. I'll throw it out there. Was this a conspiracy to lower Trey's numbers so the golden boy Luka didn't look overshadowed, Phil?
I hope not. I mean, does the NBA love Luka that much? I know the media does, but even when Trey's had this little hot streak, the media's they've been hyping Trey just as much as they were hyping Luka during his hot streak, if we're being honest. But I don't think the NBA would do that, and I really think they want this to be a race. I mean, why wouldn't they? Honestly, I think Trey is the more exciting, the more polarizing player, the player that you can build a repertoire around more so than Luka. I think we could see Trey in commercials. I don't know. Luka doesn't have that like glowing personality I think that Trey can have.
Yeah, what you think, Derek? I mean, it just seems that these were a couple of random technicals here.
Yeah, I mean, it happens. I mean, that was terrible. I mean, it was heard around the league, and I'm pretty sure both of the texts got rescinded. So, I mean, it obviously was a terrible mistake. I don't know why it was even an issue in the first place. I mean,
it just seems like every time something happens with him, and I just my immediate is conspiracy, just because I always think the NBA is the biggest conspiracy ever. So I know they play their favorites, they ride their favorites, and I agree with Phil too. The media is the same way, So I just thought, how convenient when Trey's just been on the tear he has been. Hey, we better cap him at 18 points. I mean, it was still 18 points in 18 minutes. I mean, so that definitely didn't make him look, less impressive. But I always just like to call conspiracies. So one thing that Dougie said in chat was, hey, Trey got snubbed for Player of the Week too by Ben the 3-point King Simmons, and that was harsh. I mean, Ben Simmons averaged like 16 for the week, and then Trey averages like 30. So it just, again, I was like, how does Ben Simmons win that? So, but that's another thing. I'm a big conspiracy guy. So that here's the conspiracy in the NBA not wanting to give him Player of the Week because that might make him look better than Luka. So. But overall, the Hawks did have a decent week, though. Even though they only took 1 out of 4, they had the win against the Bulls and then losses to the Bulls, Heat, and Spurs. Phil, give me your thoughts on this week's action.
I thought it was actually one of the better weeks that the Hawks have put together. Of course, they lost the 4 overtime game. You didn't have John Collins. You should have won it in regulation. Some silly calls. The Bulls were nuclear. The Bulls were nuclear in that third quarter. It seems like they hit 3 after 3 after 3. And then Sunday, of course, they went out there and they took care of business. The Bulls weren't going to hit like that 2 games in a row. That would have been a comfortable blowout. We were on our way to a blowout before Trae Young got ejected. Monday, Miami had one of the best game plans I've ever seen. Finally a smart team. But they trapped Trae when he had the ball. We had no secondary playmaker. We had no role man, pretty much. We really missed John Collins Monday. And we still only lost by 1 against a team that is absolutely desperate for wins right now on the outside of the playoff picture looking in. And then Wednesday, we couldn't hit a shot. We had no energy. And yet we still had the lead at halftime. It was like a 3-point game with 2 minutes to go against the playoff-bound Spurs. So I thought it was a very good week of basketball, and we're doing everything we can. And, for as bad as Trey looked in the first half last night, he still finished with 22, 6, and 4. So that's decent numbers. I know the shooting wasn't there, but he couldn't overcome from that first half. He looks tired.
In that Miami game, one thought that I came out of it was it felt like watching him back at Oklahoma again, where he was the only star. So you just put the full court trap on him, and it kind of really shuts him down.
Doubles at half.
Yep. Yeah, they got that's one thing why it's so important that Trey has to have a playmaker beside him, because that's what they'll do. I mean, you know, again, you saw it that his last year at Oklahoma, they put the trap on him because he was the only scoring option, and it just shut him down. And so it caused a lot of people to look down on him, I guess, when it came to the NBA draft. But yeah, I definitely agree with you as far as putting on the trap in the Heat game, and it was successful. But Derek, what are your thoughts on this week overall in action?
Yeah, I mean, in general, I thought it was a pretty good week. I mean, we got to see some other guys step up at points, and especially with John Collins out, and then I mean, we let Trey Young have his big night, and then I mean, he continued to play pretty well for the circumstances, and like you said, it just shows how much it shows that how well he has been playing. I mean, with the roster around him, and it shows that we need to get people in here so he can make them better, and he can dwell off of their play too. So I think, I mean, the future is bright, and we've seen some of it this week, and I think we're going to continue to see it.
Yeah, yeah. Again, my thoughts. I thought it was a good week, even though it didn't show in the win-loss standings. It was. I thought we played better. We did have some defensive lapses at times. Some questionable shooting at times. But overall, I mean, it's. Yeah, I can't complain. I mean, again, I figured that we would definitely have a split with the Bulls, which is usually what happens in a home and away back to back. You usually get to run into just a split. So we easily could have won that game against the Heat. And like Phil said, the Spurs are just a better team than us at this point. So, but that's what I want to see. I just want to when we have a better team like that, I want to see us hang and stay in there and not be overmatched. So I wasn't disappointed at all. So how cool was Dwayne Wade surprising Kevin Huerter with the jersey swap, Phil?
Yeah, he looked like a kid in a candy shop. You know, Kevin Huerter's a very cool guy. Got to talk to him before. He just, you know, he's so like innocent, and he just seems like, you know, he just there. I don't think he can believe that he's made it to the NBA. Honestly, he just seems so humble and so like soft spoken, and just he was really taken aback. He grew up idolizing Dwayne Wade. That's why he wears number 3. Hey, but hey, don't sleep on him. He'll dunk on you if you give him a chance. But Kevin Huerter is a great dude, and he really appreciated that. And I'm sure that's good. I'm sure it's already framed and in his house on the wall.
Yeah, how cool was it there, Derek?
Yeah, I mean, it was a cool little scene to see. I mean, obviously unexpected, and I mean, you could tell, and to know that someone that you looked up to, and I mean, you're wearing the same number because of him, knows your story and knows that that's the reason you're doing that. So I mean, it's cool for him, especially since he's not a big name player.
Yeah, we'll try and get that video up on the ATL Sports HQ Twitter account, so you guys can check it out if you haven't seen it. This is a cool moment. The best one is like Kevin Huerter's look on his face, like he's like, "What, me? Yeah, is he pointing at me?" You know, it takes him a second to realize that Dwayne Wade's talking to him. But I like that Dwayne Wade took the time to, first of all, find out, that he wears number 3 in honor of him. He talked about it in an interview where he said that he knew that Huerter wore his shoes in high school, and has just always, idolized him and looked up to him. So I'm always such a big fan of the jersey swap. I always think that's, that's something really cool. And, I'm a big memorabilia guy. So I always think, man, that would be cool if I picked up a jersey like that as someone else. So, but yeah, that was a cool moment for Kevin Huerter, and you wonder what they talked about and stuff. So, getting advice from Dwayne Wade can't be a bad thing, let me tell you. So, but we'll call it for the Atlanta Hawks, and we'll move on to the Atlanta United. That's something we normally talk about when it comes to the Atlanta United, but they just didn't have a very good week whatsoever. They lost to DC United 2-0 to start off the MLS season, and are down 3-0 to Monterrey after the first leg of the CONCACAF quarterfinals. We're just gonna go with the CCF, anyways, and. Phil, is this just the growing pains of new players and coaching?
Yeah, everybody needs to relax. We had a 3-month off season, lots of moving parts, new coach, new system. Everybody got to relax. You know, DC United has our number. They've always had our number. We knew that would happen. I thought we played decent. You know, after the first goal, it just kind of went downhill. And I think players kind of, I don't want to say they stopped trying, but they had Wednesday in the back of their head. Wednesday came, we looked rough Wednesday out the gates. We kind of stabilized. They scored that first goal, and then we kind of held strong until the 70th minute, and then you saw the fatigue set in. Now, the only decision that I will disagree with new coach is playing the regulars all that time on Sunday. That made absolutely no sense to me. I would have ran that second team out there Sunday. You're playing the best team on this side of the world pretty much, and you knew that. You knew you're flying back and forth between countries right now. There's no way that we should have ran that first team out there, and there's no way we should run this first team out there this Sunday against Cincinnati. Now, yeah, you don't want to go down. You don't want to start this season 0-2, but if you can even get a draw with Cincinnati, Cincinnati's an expansion team. They're not very good. You're at home at the Benz. It's ring night, banner night, however they do in soccer. You got to at least get the draw. And then Wednesday, you give it 45 minutes. If you don't score in 45 minutes, pull the plug and get ready for the next week. So I really think we're going to be fine. I don't think this is going to be Toronto of last year where they just struggled after winning the championship all year long. This team has too much talent for that. I still think we have the most talent in the MLS, but it's going to be a challenge. You know, it's going to take time, and it's a long season. 1 game down, 33 still to go. If this team gets in the playoffs, they're the favorite.
Yeah, I agree. Hold a second. I'm echoing somewhere. Am I good now?
I don't hear.
Okay, I think we're good here. Derek, one thing I want to ask you is, do you think that like a coaching change like this is going to take an adjustment for the United to get back to normal?
I mean, yeah, I think it plays a part of it. I mean, you got to get familiar with your coaches and, I mean, a few new players, and it's just a different thing. And, I mean, you have to give it some time in anything. I mean, so I think that definitely plays a part of it. And then, like Phil said, all of the stuff that comes into it. I mean, it's going to take some time. And, I mean, going on, you're going to see them improve and get back to the level that they were last season, most likely, and maybe even better.
Phil, do you think we're going to miss Miggy Almiron more than we thought we would? I think I asked you this the other day, but we'll run it by this chat too.
I mean, he was the best player in the league, but we were the best team in league history last year. If it wasn't for injuries, we would have demolished the point record last year. I mean, we won a championship without being challenged at all in the playoff run whatsoever. There was not a single minute where it's like, we might be in trouble. So it will never, ever, ever, ever be that easy again. But I really think when this team hits its strides, finds the right lineups, find the right formations, it's going to be great. This team should still be favored to win MLS Cup. I'd say us in the East and Seattle in the West right now should be the favorites. DC United, I think, is pretty much the only team in the East that can really give us trouble. I think DC United may be the best team in the East right now. I think we'll catch them eventually. But other than that, I mean, Toronto's New York Red Bulls really fell off. Columbus Crew, they're going to be good. And see anybody else?
No, you said Seattle. That's good enough.
But in the long run, I mean, not having Miggy on the field is going to hurt. But you have to remember the whole other side of the story. In the long run, this is going to convince so many young South American or European, any players from the top young talent, they're going to see, hey, I can go to Atlanta United. I can go to MLS and become a star player even in Europe in just a few years. So it's going to take time, but I really think we're going to be okay.
Yeah, I don't think it has anything to do with Miggy, honestly. I think it is adjusting to different players around you, and again the coaching change. You're so used to playing for one guy, and so you bring someone in. It says it's a new style. It may be the same. It may be the same game plan, but it's still a different style of coaching. But I mean, Miggy was a big piece. We all know that. I happened to see it on Twitter where people were talking about, oh, we're not winning because Miggy went and Pity Martinez and Joseph aren't on the same page, like the other two were. Stuart in our chat, he just said the same thing as me. He says all it takes is Petey and Joseph to get on the same page, the same way Miggy and Joseph were. And that's exactly what I think. When you play together a little bit more, you've had camp situations and stuff like that, but there's nothing like playing in the real game. But I definitely think that they're in trouble against Monterey. I just can't see a comeback against one of the best teams in this tournament. So. Yeah, that's something to watch out for. When is the next leg against Monterey, and when is the next match MLS?
Next MLS match will be Sunday at the Benz at 5:00, and then Wednesday night at 8 at the Benz will be leg 2 of Monterey. And I just got some breaking news. Vince Carter says he will play for one more season if teams are interested, which teams will obviously be interested.
Yeah, I'm thinking Travis Schlenk needs to be knocking on his doorstep right now. Let's just extend him now and just give it to him. He's been so good. So there you go. Breaking news. See, this is why you can't miss this show. Where else are you going to get this news? So let's go ahead and move on to the Atlanta Braves. Man, nothing going on in free agency. The free agency news has been the norm for Braves this offseason, which is just little to nothing going on. There was a big rumor going around that Craig Kimbrell was seen having dinner. I mean, big news, big dinner next to Disney World. So, and that was broke by Dave O'Brien. And what I've heard from my source is that he's working out with Brian McCann just to keep himself fresh for when someone does call, and so he's ready to go. But that's not anything new. A lot of pitchers will do that just to make sure that they're ready to go for the season. But I gotta think though that they have to be still the leading candidate for him, but he's still holding on to wanting multiple years, upwards of 5 years. And I think he's going to have to settle for 3 years somewhere. And I think if it becomes a 3-year deal, the Braves, I think, are the front runners, because everything I've heard is that they're in the 3-year range. So I'm going to guess that he signs somewhere next week. That's my prediction. And I'm going to say he does sign with the Braves next week. But Derek, are you concerned that the guy we paid $23 million a year to play, Josh Donaldson, has yet to see the field this spring?
I think it should be a slight concern. I don't think it should be as big as people might see it as. But when it comes to the regular season, if you do see that happening, obviously that's a big concern. But I guess you just don't want to rush things, and you don't want to irritate more stuff. So I guess it's part of the plan.
That's it. Coming off an injury, especially a back injury like that, you're only one move away. I'm sure, I don't know if you guys have ever had, back pains, stuff like that. There's nothing worse than like lower back pain, because it just doesn't subside right away. So, and it just cripples your whole body. You can't stand up straight. You certainly can't swing a bat, because the torque of, swinging just puts all that pressure on your lower back to begin with. So there's nothing to rush. But does this concern you at all, Phil?
Nah, and also I thought I saw a report earlier that he will give it a go tomorrow.
Yeah,
I wouldn't be at all concerned. Mm-hmm. Now, if we start getting like the week before, And has he come out and said, yeah, I'm still experiencing pain and soreness? So if he hasn't come out and said that, then there's nothing to be concerned about. I mean, he's a veteran. What does he really need to prove in spring training?
Yeah, I agree with that. I do want to see him get multiple at bats. What they normally do with guys like this, where they're maybe starting a little bit late in spring training, is that in the split squad games, they'll run and go get 3 at bats, and then hurry up and go to the split squad game and try and get another 3 or 4 at bats in, so that you can get some swings against live pitching. And my wife says she's a little bit concerned. I'm honestly not. To me, I call it the superstar treatment, where these guys know how much work that they have to get in spring training to be game ready. And he's come out and said that, hey, look, I'm good. I just, again, there's no rush coming off an injury. And I haven't seen any concern team-wise. I haven't heard Alex Anthopoulos talk about, any concern on his end. And so it'll be interesting, because tomorrow he is supposed to make his debut. And so I do want to see, how the next week or so goes for him as far as swinging the bat and playing the field. Because one thing about it is that we got Johan Camargo that's ready to take that third base spot if Donaldson gets hurt or anything like that. So it's not like we're lacking, with infield help. You also have, top prospect Austin Riley, who's a third baseman that could easily step in there too if there's any kind of injury concerns. So like I said, we'll keep an eye on that next week, and I'm pretty sure when we do the show next week that that'll be one of my updates is about Josh Donaldson. And like I said, hopefully next week we'll be talking about Craig Kimbrell or someone joining this team, because there are just some quality starting pitching skill out there as well. So I do think we're going to add one more piece before the season starts. So let's go ahead and go on to the Atlanta Falcons. Grady Jarrett got tagged. $15.2 million will be the tag for him. Was this a must move for the Falcons, Derek?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, he's one of the best tackles in the league right now. But a thing that is concerning, I mean, obviously the franchise tag was good for us, but a thing that's concerning is, I mean, the rumor was that he was asking for Aaron Donald money, and I just don't see him at the point right now where he deserves money like that. But it also, I mean, after saying that, I mean, he's still a key guy in the defense, and I mean, I don't really think you'll find a lot of people like him, but I don't think you risk the other people that you could end up potentially losing if you did give him money like that, and you lose out on a lot of opportunities. So I mean, it's a sticky situation, and I mean, the Falcons are in a sticky situation with a lot of players on the roster right now.
Yeah, Phil, what you think, man? Was this a must move for the Falcons?
Yeah, the Falcons have to. You can't afford to go backwards right now. After the season we just had, that's one of our best defensive players. You got to get it done. And if he wants that kind of money, he's gonna have to show something more this season. I mean, he's been a great player, but he ain't deserving of $20 million right now. But hey, that the Falcons window is quickly closing. So if we can get a motivated guy to help us get to the next level and hopefully make some noise in the playoffs and get back to the Super Bowl, that's good. We need that.
I thought it was a great move by the Falcons, so I definitely agree it was a must move. But why I think it was a must move for the Falcons was it may be costly at $15.2 million, but it buys you another year of negotiating with him to get him signed long term. And so that's why it's such a huge move, which is one reason why I like the franchise tag, because it kind of makes it clear to your player that you want them around long term, but that only works if you continue to have contract negotiations with them. And so but yeah, I definitely agree. They gotta have him this year. So good for him. 15.2 is guaranteed is a nice number to have. So some people you hear complaining about the franchise tag. I didn't hear one complaint from him about getting 15.2 for 1 year. So, but one thing that at this point I didn't throw this in our notes, but this is something I'll ask you, Derek. Remember when they were going to work on Julio this offseason? Yeah.
Haven't heard anything about it.
Have not heard anything. Is that concerning?
To me, that's very concerning. I mean, it's your best players. It's your franchise pretty much. I mean, he's a franchise player. So, I mean, you have to make sure that he's happy no matter the situation. I mean, he wants to be in Atlanta. He keeps preaching that every time that the media asks him about stuff. But you have to continue to make him happy so the drive is still there to help the team.
What you think about Julio, Phil?
Yeah, we're gonna eventually. We have to take care of this guy. He is the franchise. He is the city. Someone who really embodies the city of Atlanta. I can't imagine the reaction from the fans if we didn't do right by Julio. Eventually we're gonna have to make it work.
Last year it got testy enough to where I actually had to question, would he sit out? I started thinking, and I'm like, he's given everything to the Falcons franchise, and patiently waited his turn. He's one of the best receivers all time, not just Falcons all time, but one of the best receivers of all time. And he's still patiently waiting. And I think the patience is going to wear thin. Especially if they work out a contract with Grady Jarrett, that's going to tick him off, man. I mean, it's just because, again, to be able to put the franchise tag on someone and then work out a deal with them, he's got to be like, hey, what's going on here? Because then you're going to run out of money. I mean, that's and what we're going to get into with the next question too.
There comes a time. I mean, you just got to stick up for yourself. I mean, that's in an NFL. It's a big problem because these people aren't getting the money when they deserve to get the money, and then they end up getting hurt or something. I mean, we see it all the time, and that's something he doesn't want to happen. So, I mean, obviously he has a lot of pride in Atlanta, but I mean, his situation and his.
Hold on. There we go. I was froze for a second. I don't know what happened. I think we lost Derek. The Julio talk got to him. He's froze. So we just get to look at his pretty picture there for a little while. So, but anyways, Phil, we'll jump into the next topic. Two Star just put it good in chat. They got no money. I mean, the Falcons are quickly running into cap issues. I brought this up in our chat. Is the window quickly closing for this group before a complete breakdown needs to happen?
Well, I mean, Matt Ryan ain't getting younger. Julio ain't getting younger. So, of course, Matt Ryan is the kind of player that can probably play till about 40, though. But Julio Jones, sometimes the wide receivers and especially running backs, they can kind of break down earlier. So Julio Jones might not have too many more years of his prime left. Football careers can be very short, but I'd say with this group right here, they have about 2 or 3 more seasons, but you don't want to get into that cap hell where you can literally do nothing and the team starts to get worse and you still can do nothing. And you have to rebuild at that point.
Yeah. One thing about it is we saw the Saints just have to go through the same thing over the last until last year, so probably 2 years before last year, where you just run out of money. I mean, and so it's imperative that they absolutely cannot miss this year in the draft. They can't. I mean, they did a good job last year drafting. I thought it was the best draft under Thomas Dimitroff. So complete. But you can't you can't miss again because you're running out of money, and so you need these young guys that will give you 3 or 4 good years before they have to be paid up. So to me, the window is closing very, very quickly. If they struggle this year, I'm almost to the point where, as an outsider looking in, I think that I'm going to think that they need to blow it up and start all over again. Start releasing some of your bigger salary guys, and and again, just start building up. I mean, their first mistake to me was choosing to give Devonta Freeman the big contract, because I bet now in hindsight they had wished that they had given that money to Julio and then let Tevin Coleman and a future Ito Smith. Obviously, Ito wasn't involved at that time, but a future Ito Smith be our running back combination. But now it's cost you Tevin Coleman, who's clearly walking, and so. It's just not looking good. Not looking good for that franchise right now. There's nothing worse than cap problems. So, and then, like I said, once everybody starts talking about wanting to get their money, it all spirals downhill from there. So, let's go into buy or sell. I'm guessing because Derek is missing in action. So, do you want to give him a second? Do you want to discuss something else real quick before we jump into buy or sell, or do you just want to go into it?
Atlanta Legends finally getting a win.
Oh, that's got. I was going to put the Legends in, but I kind of thought we'd run a little late. We're actually running a little bit early, so let's talk about the Atlanta Legends. They actually won. Woo! Go Legends! But the big news is that Aaron Murray will be getting the start this Sunday. So how big is that for the franchise?
Yeah, that's definitely going to spur interest here in the Atlanta area, of course, with Aaron Murray having those UGA ties, of a fan favorite here in UGA country, it seems. But they finally got a win after Sims had to go out of the game. So Murray led them to the 14-11 win. So not very exciting football, but hey, a win is a win. And when you're 0-3, 30% into the season, any win counts.
Yeah, I'll never understand why Matt Sims was chosen to begin with. When you're starting a franchise like that, you want to sell tickets. Man, throw Aaron Murray out there, whether or not he, and then if he's not the answer, then go to Matt Sims. But the whole point of this league is to possibly give someone a chance to wake their way into the NFL. Aaron Murray was never really given a chance to compete for a job in the NFL. He was kind of relegated to third quarterback roles in Kansas City, and so he just never really got that fair shot. And so he's still young enough that he could have a shot. Matt Sims has been in the NFL multiple times, has gotten to start games multiple